Hi, I'm Nathan. I go by Peteparker sometimes, and a lot of times I do weekly comic book reviews because that's the rule around my house. If I buy them, I gotta review them if I want to keep buying them. And so I gotta make up for a lost time. This is going to be the review of the New Avengers Annual #1. This is written by Brian Michael Bendis and drawn by Gabriel Del Toro. And I'll tell you what sold me on this. I read a preview review on this ahead of time that said, don't buy this, it's not very good. And I was not going to buy it, especially with the $4.99 price tag. But then, you know what, I briefly flipped through it and I saw these really cool, totally splash layout pages at the beginning, which are serving to amplify a point and really show you a lot of the history associated with the Avengers in general. So the idea here is that Simon Williams, who has been saying that the Avengers are a bad idea and they create a lot of problems, is finally explaining what his whole point is behind this whole thing to a bunch of other guys, so that they'll join with him and attack the Avengers to make them stop being Avengers, because he's tried to tell them a few times and they don't stop. So he goes through like 5 major things, or 5 reasons why the Avengers should be stopped and they shouldn't be Avengers anymore. And this group of heroes that are kind of anti-heroes, that are kind of villainous heroes a little bit, all agree with him and they all attack Avengers Mansion and they win or whatever. And then they set their sights on something else. So it wasn't a bad story, I don't think. I think the characterization of some of these minor characters that are thrown in here is wrong. Like, especially like Anti-Venom, I don't see him ever being a team player or ever buying into wanting to work with the team to take down Avengers. It doesn't seem like that's the whole point of his existence at the moment. And maybe it's leading into other things, but I think there's just that alone, and that's a fairly big character, right? I've read only a handful of Anti-Venom stories, but even I know that. So it makes me feel like the rest of the good bad guys on this team, D-Man, Atlas, Ethan Edwards, Goliath, Devil Slayer, Sentry, and Captain Ultra, all these guys here, makes me feel like they are probably not being written true to their characterization in the past, necessarily. Maybe not every single one, but for the most part, these are characters that not a lot of people know about or not a lot of people really follow, so I'm sure they're all looking up who these characters are and what they have been doing in the past, maybe. But for the most part, people are just going to believe whatever's in here is their true motivation, and I really didn't buy Anti-Venom, so I don't know why I would buy anybody else's, since they're even less popular than that. All of that aside, I can understand Simon Williams not believing this is true and being a little bit crazy or whatever, but this is very extreme, and his points aren't very well made. So, as far as why the Avengers shouldn't be Avengers, I was really expecting like really good points to where I could see that and say, yeah, maybe the Avengers shouldn't be Avengers. Because I remember when the Illuminati decided to throw the Hulk into space because he was killing people and they just couldn't do anything else, and it was their friend and they wanted to do what was best for him. I remember thinking at the time that, you know, that makes sense. That's a really decent solution for the problem that they have. It kind of sucks for the Hulk, of course, but, you know, in the end, that's a logical conclusion to what the situation is. Here, you don't get that. The arguments he made are only half of what the real truth is, and they're not. And he, Simon Williams, Wonder Man, would know what the real truth is behind all that because he's been there the whole time. So they keep saying that he needs help and Miss Marvel is going to get him help or something like that. But at the same time, I don't know if that's stressed enough that he's not only not seeing this clearly and not making his points valid, but he's also really crazy because this can't be, what he's saying isn't true. So then on top of that, this ragtag bunch of good bad guys or bad good guys actually beat a group of Avengers in their own Avengers mansion, including the Thing, Miss Marvel, Wolverine, and Spider-Man. Now, I don't care how strong, well, I do care how strong they are, but this group of people with their group of powers doesn't seem like they could beat the ultimate fighters of the globe or whatever in that situation. So this whole story comes off as completely unbelievable, which is really difficult to swallow, considering you know, it was okay, and you know, the art was kind of choppy. I'll show you an example of that when I say choppy. If you take a look at that Wolverine right there, and if you look real close at his face, the blackness at the bottom of his face, which I believe is supposed to be like his mutton chops coming straight down, looks really sketchy in this area, and it's not very clear as to what's happening. I don't know. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it either. The only thing that I really hated about it was that I paid $4.99 for it, and that these beginning parts with the historical splash pages really sold me on this whole comic when they were really only a few scenes. Although this is awesome alone by itself. Just the scale of the Hulk there, how his hand is wrapped around the torso of Thor, and how they're all in their old costumes along with, you know, the big logo of the Incredible Hulk. It is really, really great. And it feels like a lot of these splash pages at the very beginning are the best things in the book. So, were they worth $4.99? Not so sure about that, but I did enjoy it anyway. There's another little interesting point here. Apparently, somebody felt that you wouldn't know who this is upside down, and maybe you wouldn't, and they had to put Miss Marvel's logo in the bottom of her shoes so that you would identify who in this scene that is, because maybe there would be an internet debate somewhere if that wasn't on there. I just felt it's kind of silly. Does she really have the logo for her suit on the bottom of her shoes? I don't know. Anyway, I would recommend not buying it unless you absolutely had to have these kind of pin-up things. They are beautiful, and especially this one. If I could own that art, that would be incredible. That's going to be an amazing painting and probably an amazing print. But other than that, it's probably not worth $4.99. It's a little disappointing. Well, relatively disappointing. A lot disappointing. I don't know. So I will give this a 2 out of 5 because there wasn't enough substance in there to really make it good in any one aspect. And I think Bendis is trying to make the case in the very beginning with Wonder Man saying, now this isn't going to be a popular decision, or this isn't going to be a popular opinion, and you probably won't believe this because you probably feel differently about this. It feels like kind of, well, if you don't like this story, that's because you think the Avengers are good guys or whatever, and that's not necessarily true. If they were good points and they were valid and they had hard facts behind them, then I probably would like the story and feel for Simon Williams and his weird team coming in and doing what they had to do. But the fact is, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. So there you go. New Avengers Annual #1, 2 out of 5. Save your $5. Spend it on 2 comics somewhere else. Anyway, if you like that review, check out other reviews that I have on YouTube under Spidey207 or elsewhere under Peteparker. That's how they usually are. In any case, thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.